Hey there, it's me, Lauren, with Bold Motion Quilting, and I wanted to do another video just kind of giving you an idea of what I do for some t-shirt memory quilting. I've gone ahead and I've quilted the border and a bunch of the other blocks in this memory quilt, and I wanted to show you what you could do with a memory quilt block that maybe has a lot of negative space. That you can do a lot with an empty block that has negative space, but check out this one, for example. Like, we had our little gym guy, and he was off center. If I had cut anywhere, you know, up in this corner or up in this corner to make my quilt block, I would have had weird advertising words or different things. So this is one way that you could do it. Frame your subject, give yourself some interesting different spatial lines, and then you can echo or pebble or do whatever, you know, makes you feel happy in there. And that's something that you could definitely do. Or you could do some kind of motif or design. So I'm gonna go in here and I'm just gonna echo this. I'm just going to use my hopping foot to kind of travel around my space. Okay. And then we're going to have to do something in here that's interesting that isn't just, you know, straight lines or something like that. So let's just kind of travel out to the edge. And I know that weird travel line probably goes against what a lot of people stand for, but let's just bear with me here. So this is a 16-inch wide block. So I know that at 8 inches, we are at halfway through. So I'm just going to mark my half. Okay, so my ruler has measure markings every 1/4 of an inch up to 8 inches. So this is half. And if that's half, we're going to use our horizontal. I'm just using my horizontal line here to help keep my ruler straight. And I'll line it up with my 8 inch. And I'm just going to mark it right here in the middle. Okay. So we're going to use that kind of as a gauge. Now my ruler won't go all the way. So maybe what we'll do is come in, let's say 2 inches. 6, 5, 4. Let's come in 3 inches. 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now my ruler will reach. So I'm going to go to the middle. Which that doesn't feel like the middle to me. Let me measure that one more time. 8. And 8. Okay. Visually it does not look like the middle. So we're just going to stitch up to this point. Remove the needle before your needle gets to it. And then we need to mark what 3 inches is from this other side. And I mean, using a needle is pretty simple because you don't have to mark anything or see what matches or moves. And once you get your ruler settled to about 1/4 of an inch away, you don't have to stitch on or over the needle. You can just take it out and then remove it so it's not accidentally going to get hit. So this is where we can kind of do a little bit of interesting things in here that can give us some different designs or shapes, but we're using a design that is going to point our viewer's eye to the wording on the shirt. We did a 1/2 inch echo. Okay, now we're going to do a 1/4 inch on the inside. Okay, Okay, we'll do 3/4 of an inch. And this is just, or we'll do a full inch because that's where I'm at. This is just a little bit of improvising. Seeing where the needle should land is the hard part. You kind of have to be able to just gauge your space. And you don't have to quilt, you know, every inch of this quilt block here. You can just kind of quilt what makes you happy, what's going to be adequate spacing for your batting, what your batting threshold can take as far as stitching goes. So my having this 1 inch in here won't make any bit of difference. So sometimes your designs can really coincide with what it is that you're stitching. Sometimes you can just make stuff up. That's gonna look real nice. Okay, so I don't have to stitch anything in there, but I won't feel like it's complete unless I do, so let's see what it looks like. So easy to mark my 1 inch, half inch, whatever. Alright, so I don't think this is going to fit 1 inch and half of an inch. So to kind of just go with the theme, I'm just going to do my 1/4 inch to kind of seal off this area. Alright, so now that's done. So now we're just going to go in and figure out something else we can do. I like the idea of echoing this one more time, just with a little 1/4 inch separator. Alright, so now you can go in there and do some kind of free motion design. You can do some kind of back and forth design. If you have some cool computerized quilting designs and you want to do dumbbells or barbells, you could do that too. Now I'm doing 3/4 of an inch. You might wonder why I keep doing 3/4 of an inch on these videos. It is a weird size, but I like it better than an inch or half an inch. So it's more or less just my preference. And it's a little more forgiving if by the end you have a little more or a little less at the top of your quilt block. And let's say you're doing this and you want to get real fancy with it. You really wanted to get real fancy. Every other one of these lines you could do some kind of back and forth filler or a chain of pearls, or you could do maybe some ribbon candy or arrows crisscross. You could make this a cross hatch instead of a straight line grid. Like, there's a lot that you can do to really customize it. Now when I get to the area where I've already stitched, I have to try to respect that and backtrack as best as possible. Line up my ruler. Now while I'm in here, if I can help it, I'll stay in here. I'll do any last lines I gotta get in there, just to make it all look a little more cohesive. And then I follow this until my ruler is nice and straight on my previous stitched line. That happens to go right over my arrow tip. And there's no real way to keep this straight except for if my line is straight and my ruler is on its horizontal line, ideally this should go straight all the way across. Okay, so while I'm over here, we don't know if I'm going to get over here again, right? And I don't want to have to cut and break threads if I don't need to. So while I can, I'm going to just quilt this extra line that I'm missing. Actually, there's a couple lines that are missing. So that first line right there is my travel line. And I'm just gonna ignore it. And if I really want it to match on the other side, I can do, you know, 1/4 inch. Okay, and maybe to give the block a little pizzazz at the very top, I'm going to do 1/4 inch. Just to give it a little bit of a border. So you can tell I don't care if I have consistent lines everywhere. I just do what I think might look nice in that space. Okay, and then we gotta come down. Then we gotta quilt these areas. It's a little more difficult to quilt behind the foot on longer stripes. And I ran out of bobbin. You may or may not be able to hear my kids cackling right now. They're playing some kind of little travel foosball game. Every once in a while, they're getting a little loud. Alright. I don't know if you can hear them squealing. It's kind of funny. Okay, so what I've done is I've gone like 6 stitches back from where my thread broke. I'm going to kind of back stitch and forward stitch so I lock in on top of those stitches. And then I'm going to continue. It's just like a bobbin to end right when you're on your last line, right? And you can tell if I pull up on this bobbin, that piece of thread that broke, that ended, it's locked in there. It won't rip up anymore past that point, so I know that I've done well in locking it off. Okay, and I forward and back stitch those. Then I'm going to bring these up. So you could do a lot of crazy quilting up in here, or you can just make something that's, you know, going to point to the part of the shirt that matters, but add a little bit of interest without it being overly done. So don't underestimate a straight line. I do a lot of straight line quilting. I also do, you know, a lot of echo quilting too on memory quilts, especially if there's a big old mean figure in the middle of it. The other thing that I really like to do is kind of like this water design up in here. See that? It kind of looks like ley lines or, you know, puddles of water or something of that sort. And that, especially on masculine quilts, kind of looks like a stipple without it being a stipple. And if I've got like white on white, there's no harm in doing a stipple, but just make sure that you can get that stipple really close to your characters, because you don't want to stitch on them, but you want to try to outline them as much as possible so that they puff up and off of your quilt top, and this is something that people will really see when they start doing the quilting. So I'm going to keep quilting with the black here, and then we'll come back for a video showing you how I record stitching around a design on my quilt top with my computerized quilter, and then put that onto another empty block. So we'll see how that goes. I hope this is helpful for you with your free motion quilting, especially with memory quilts. Just remember that the biggest thing is when you've got this screen print on your t-shirt, if you scratch it and you can hear it, that is definitely something that you don't want to stitch on, because if you stitch through that and splice it open, every time someone washes this, it's going to begin to peel and crack, much like this guy is peeled and cracked just from, wear and tear. Okay, so if you want to try to preserve this as much as possible, you want to try not to stitch on that at all costs. Okay, so take care and happy quilting.